This is a new 1-hour Demon Slayer What If compilation with all my latest episodes. You can chill, sleep, or just let it play in the background. None of these what ifs were in my other compilations, so enjoy the new stories. What if Tanjiro was guided by Yoriichi instead of Sabito and Makomo? One of you guys actually commented this idea on one of my videos, and I thought it was really good. I can't find the name right now, so I'm sorry about that, but shout out to whoever suggested it. This isn't just going to cover the boulder training though, we're doing the entire story. In this what if, Yoriichi Tsugikuni guides Tanjiro every step of the way. Think of it like a Force Ghost from Star Wars. Yoriichi appears whenever Tanjiro is training or fighting, helping him grow into a true sun breather. So let's get right into the video. We basically start off the same way as the original story. Tanjiro goes out to sell coal, and on his way back, he's stopped by the old man who warns him about demons. The old man convinces him to stay the night. When Tanjiro returns the next morning, he finds his family slaughtered. Nezuko is the only one left, but she's turned into a demon. Tanjiro tries to help her, and that's when Giyu shows up, and everything from there plays out just like the original. So we're not going to change anything at the very beginning. Instead, let's skip forward to the training with Sakonji Urokodaki, the former water Hashira. And this is where we first see Yoriichi Tsugikuni enter the story. Just like in the original timeline, Urokodaki leaves Tanjiro with the task of cutting the boulder before he can qualify for final selection. But this time, instead of Sabito and Makomo appearing to help him, it's Yoriichi Tsugikuni who shows up. Yoriichi trains Tanjiro directly, teaching him proper swordsmanship, refining his breathing, and even explaining the basics of sun breathing. Because of this, Tanjiro becomes way more powerful than in the original timeline and is able to slice the boulder much easier. Urokodaki is a little unsettled when Tanjiro explains that it was Yoriichi guiding him, since he doesn't fully understand what's happening. But either way, the results speak for themselves. Tanjiro now knows sun breathing far earlier than he should. In the original timeline, Tanjiro's first use of sun breathing was during the battle with Rui on Mount Natagumo against Lower Moon 5. But here, he's already learned it before final selection. This gives him a huge head start compared to the original story. So, Tanjiro goes through the final selection and clears out the demons pretty easily. Honestly, he could probably handle every demon in his area. The only one that gives him some trouble is the big hand demon, but with Yoriichi guiding him and with sun breathing already in his arsenal, it's way easier than in the original timeline. From there, most of the early fights go the same, until we reach that big city encounter with Muzan. And just like in the original, Tanjiro can't do anything here. Muzan immediately creates a new demon in the middle of the crowd, and with so many people around and so many buildings, Tanjiro isn't strong enough yet to even try and fight him. The real turning point comes with Rui, the Lower Moon 5. In the original timeline, this was Tanjiro's first time using sun breathing, but now, with Yoriichi guiding him through every demon battle up until this point, the drum demon, the swamp demon, all of them, Tanjiro is way more skilled. During Rui's fight, with Nezuko trapped in his webs and Tanjiro on the brink of death, everything lines up for him to finally unlock the Demon Slayer mark. With the mark activated and his sun breathing techniques sharpened by Yoriichi's training, Tanjiro slices Rui's head off almost instantly. Right after Rui's defeat, Tanjiro is brought into the Hashira meeting. Just like in the original, the Hashira question why he's traveling with a demon. Things play out the same, up until the point where Sanemi tries to hurt Nezuko, but this time, it doesn't go that way. Tanjiro is way stronger now, and instead of just landing that one famous headbutt, he actually fights back. Even without being able to activate his Demon Slayer mark at will, his training with Yoriichi makes him strong enough to hold his own against Sanemi until Kagaya, the master, arrives. Once Kagaya shows up, he confirms that Giyu and Urokodaki vouched for Tanjiro and Nezuko, and the two are officially accepted into the Corps. And with that, we move right into the Mugen Train arc, which is going to be very interesting in this timeline. With Rengoku, they all board the train, and they all fall under Enmu's spell, Lower Moon 1's dream. But this time, Yoriichi guides Tanjiro out of the dream, while most of the others still get woken up by Nezuko. They all split up, with Tanjiro and Inosuke going after Enmu, Lower Moon 1, while Rengoku, Zenitsu, and Nezuko protect the train. After that, Tanjiro finishes Enmu off using his sun breathing, powered up with Yoriichi's help. With that boost, they kill Enmu way faster. The train still derails, just like in the original, and now we see Upper Moon 3, Akaza. Now this time, Tanjiro does not get stabbed, because he's way more experienced and senses it before it even happens. So he joins Rengoku in fighting Akaza. He's actually a huge help here, because after fighting Lower Moon 1, and now clashing with Akaza, Tanjiro activated his Demon Slayer mark. With it activated, he and Rengoku go all in against Akaza. Inosuke isn't strong enough to join in, and Zenitsu and Nezuko are still passed out, so it's just the two of them holding the line. Tanjiro is still a little weaker than Rengoku, but he's a solid support support in the fight. During the battle, Tanjiro has a flashback, Yoruichi teaching him that to defeat this enemy, he needs to use the selfless state. Then another memory hits. His father fighting the bear with a rusty axe, showing no battle intent. That's exactly what Yoruichi told him to do. And in this timeline, Tanjiro finally activates the selfless state. With it, he cuts off Akaza's head. Now, if you've seen the new Demon Slayer movie, you know why I'm going into more detail here. The selfless state was shown beautifully on the big screen, and that's why I wanted to really focus on it in this What If. So in this version, Tanjiro activated his Demon Slayer mark, then used the selfless state to kill Akaza. Akaza, realizing everything as he's close to death, delivers the final blow to himself, punching through his own body, and finally reunites with his wife in the afterlife. Now Tanjiro has the Demon Slayer mark and the selfless state. The only thing he really needs now is full mastery of the transparent world. He's seen glimpses of it for a quick second, but he hasn't mastered it yet. At least now, he knows how to activate his Demon Slayer mark at will. When he returns, Tanjiro explains everything to the Hashira, how the mark is activated, what conditions are needed, and how to push past limits to reach it. Now we move into the Entertainment District arc with Tengen. Let's skip past all the dialogue of scouting and hunting for demons, straight into the fight. When Tanjiro faces Daki, it's not even close. Tanjiro basically mop-wops her, defeating her super quick and super easy. He never gets pushed to the point of rage, his eyes never fill with blood, he just cuts her down fast. Then comes the real Upper Moon 6, Gyutaro. With both him and Daki together, the fight would normally drag out, but in this timeline, Tanjiro's selfless state makes him incredibly powerful. He can hold his own against Gyutaro until Tengen joins the battle. Once Tengen's in, it's basically wraps. Remember, Tengen is immune to poison, which takes away Gyutaro's biggest advantage. With Tanjiro's support, they kill Gyutaro and Daki way faster. Because of this, Tengen never loses his arm, and with Nezuko's help healing the poison, both Tanjiro and Tengen are fine by the end. This makes the Entertainment District arc way quicker and way easier. And most importantly, Tengen doesn't retire in this timeline. He stays active, which means he's still there for the final battles too. Now let's get into the Swordsmith Village arc. In this timeline, Tanjiro never actually gets a brand new sword because he's such a skilled swordsman now that he doesn't break his blade. But after so many battles and constant training, his sword is definitely worn down. So he travels to the Swordsmith Village anyway after the Entertainment District arc. Everything up to this point plays out pretty much the same as the original timeline. But then we reach the big battle, Upper Moon 4, Hantengu. This fight brings in Muichiro Tokito, Tanjiro, Nezuko, and Genya going up against him. So, Tokito and Tanjiro are basically on the same level here, though Tanjiro is probably just a little bit stronger. At this point, Tanjiro is basically Hashira level, because with the selfless state, the Demon Slayer mark, and sun breathing, he's almost on Yoruichi's level. The only thing he's missing is more mastery over sun breathing and the transparent world. Either way, he's a huge help in this battle. Nezuko still gives him the red blade, and Tokito never gets blasted away, because Tanjiro is so fast and aware. He reacts instantly and grabs Tokito before it happens. Now back to the red blade. Tanjiro could make it red on his own, just by activating the mark and gripping his sword hard. But with Nezuko's blood demon art added on top, it's way more effective, since her flames hurt demons even more. Tanjiro is strong enough to fight all 4 of Hantengu's emotion clones by himself. When those 4 merge into the giant version, Tokito takes that one on, while Tanjiro, Nezuko, and Genya go after the main body. Meanwhile, Mitsuri shows up, and this time, she ends up fighting Upper Moon 5, Gyoko. So, Mitsuri basically does everything she did in the original timeline at first. She defeats all of Upper Moon 5, Gyoko's little fish minions, and saves the village chief. But in this timeline, since Muichiro is already busy fighting Upper Moon 4, Mitsuri is the one who goes up against Gyoko directly. This time, she awakens her Demon Slayer mark while fighting him, and unlike the original, she doesn't get trapped in the water prison, since most of the people are already out of danger. She's able to keep her distance with her longsword and avoid being sealed. She comes in time to save the little kid and the swordsmiths, and from there, she pretty much defeats Gyoko, the same way Muichiro did in the original story. With Upper Moon 5 taken care of, we switch back to the Upper Moon 4 battle. Mitsuri throws Tanjiro his brand new sword, and Tanjiro uses it to cut off Hantengu's main body's head. Nezuko still becomes immune to sunlight in this timeline, meaning she can walk freely under the sun, and that's exactly what triggers Muzan's plan to go after her. And with that, we move into the Hashira training arc. Is basically the same, but this time, we've got both Rengoku and Tengen still active. Tengen was already around in the original, but in this timeline, he never retired, so now he's back in the mix. Also, Tanjiro already knows how to activate the Demon Slayer mark at will, and during training, he helps the other Hashira figure it out too. So by the end of this arc, almost all of them are pushing their limits and unlocking their marks. From here, things move toward the final showdown. The head of the Ubuyashiki family sacrifices himself when Muzan comes for him, and Muzan takes his life. That sets everything into motion, and all of the Hashira rush in to fight Muzan. Once they clash, Muzan traps everyone inside the Infinity Castle, and this kicks off the Infinity Castle arc. Now let's break it down. Who's fighting who? So let's switch things up and start with the side battles. First, we've got Zenitsu versus Kaigaku. That one plays out the same as the original timeline timeline with Zenitsu unleashing his brand new 7th form. And if you've seen the new Demon Slayer movie, you got to see that in full animation. It looked incredible. Next, we move to the fight against Nakime, the Biwa demon. Yushiro is there interfering with her control, and meanwhile, Mitsuri and Obanai help him. Now let's get into the main Upper Moon battles. Remember, this is before Nakime dies, so her job is still to scatter the Hashira across the castle to stop them from all teaming up at once. For the Upper Moon 1 fight, we've got Tanjiro, Giyu, Sanemi, and Muchiro. With this lineup, the battle is brutal, but Tanjiro also receives guidance from Yoriichi during the fight. Tanjiro sees flashbacks of Yoriichi's past, learns the story of Kokushibo's jealousy, and truly understands his tragedy. After Kokushibo is defeated and his head is cut off, he chooses to end things himself, reflecting on his brother with sadness before finally dying. For the Upper Moon 2 fight, the lineup is Shinobu, Kanao, Inosuke, Rengoku, and Gyomei. Shinobu once said that defeating Doma would take the equivalent of 3 Hashira working together. Here, they've got more than enough. With Gyomei's raw power, Rengoku's speed, Giyu's defensive style, plus Kanao and Inosuke backing them up, Doma stands no chance. This time, Shinobu doesn't need to sacrifice herself. They overwhelm him and kill him outright. With the Upper Moons defeated, Muzan realizes Nakime has been compromised and kills her on the spot. That collapses the Infinity Castle and ejects everyone into the surface. From here, we head straight into the Sunrise Countdown arc. Now with Tanjiro almost on Yoriichi's level, after mastering the transparent world in the Upper Moon 1 fight and nearly perfecting sun breathing, Yoriichi's spirit guides him through the entire final battle with Muzan. With that guidance, Tanjiro is able to strike all of Muzan's 7 hearts at once. And since all the Hashira are still alive in this timeline, backing him up, the fight is way easier than in the original. Tanjiro never becomes Demon King Tanjiro here. It doesn't even get a chance to happen because Yoriichi is guiding him the whole way. So no Hashira die in this version, except for Gyomei. Like Kokushibo said, after unlocking the mark, he wouldn't live past this night since he was already over 25. Gyomei dies peacefully, reunited with his family and the children he once cared for. Meanwhile, the others live on. We get to see Mitsuri and Obanai's love story play out. Giyu and Shinobu's bond finally blossoms, my personal favorite. Muichiro lives, so his bloodline doesn't end. Same with Shinobu's bloodline. It carries on instead of dying with her like in the original. Overall, this creates a much happier ending for Demon Slayer. I really like how this what if turned out. What if Rengoku survived? So, let's get right into it. Everything in Season 1 happens exactly the same, and Tanjiro still wants to go on the Mugen train because he wants to see if Rengoku knows anything about sun breathing. They board the train, fall asleep, and break out of their dreams in Lower Moon 1 Enmu's trap. Tanjiro and Inosuke go to kill Enmu, while Rengoku, Nezuko, and Zenitsu stay on board protecting the civilians. Then the train crashes, and now we're at the point with Akaza. So how do we make Rengoku survive? There are a few possibilities. One is that Rengoku accepts Akaza's offer, but if you guys want that version, let me know in the comments and I'll make that timeline next. Another possibility is that Rengoku awakens his Demon Slayer mark and pushes through until sunrise. That's extremely difficult because Akaza was holding back during their fight, and he never lets a Hashira survive unless they become a demon. The only real way Rengoku can unlock the mark is if Tanjiro already has his, because others can only awaken it after Tanjiro does. So, let's say while fighting Enmu and trapped in those dreams, Tanjiro's body experiences a life-threatening situation that triggers the mark. That way, when Rengoku fights Akaza, Tanjiro's mark gives him that slight power boost to survive. Akaza takes the battle more seriously, but it still ends with him fleeing because of the sunrise. Rengoku is still severely injured but alive. He's brought back to the Demon Slayer Corp to heal, marking the first major change in this timeline. Right after Rengoku heals up, Tanjiro, Inosuke, and Zenitsu train even harder. If you guys remember in the original timeline, Rengoku said all of them would be his Tsuguko, which I think is pretty cool. So, let's get into it. They all start serious training, and this gives them more time together before Rengoku announces that plan. I think Inosuke would train with the Stone Hashira, since Rengoku is showing off his new Tsuguko to the other Hashira. Zenitsu would just train with whoever he can, but Tanjiro and Rengoku would mostly train together because their styles are somewhat similar. Of course, sun breathing is the most powerful and original breathing style in the entire series. Every other one is just an altered version of it, so Tanjiro training alongside Rengoku would make a lot of sense. Now, for the Entertainment District arc, I think Rengoku would go there with Tengen, Tanjiro, Zenitsu, and Inosuke since they were hunting a strong demon, and Rengoku and Tengen are good friends, so 2 Hashira go on this mission together. Everything plays out mostly the same until Tanjiro versus Daki. Rengoku would jump in alongside Tanjiro Tanjiro to fight her, and with his strength, he'd slice off Daki's head easily, just like Tengen did in the original story. With both Rengoku and Tengen having their Demon Slayer marks, they'd be able to fight Gyutaro and Daki together. Tanjiro would match up well against Daki without having to go berserk or get bloody eyes since he has his mark, and Rengoku could keep up with Gyutaro alone using his flame breathing and his mark. The only issue here is the poison. Rengoku isn't immune to poison like Tengen, and even Tengen struggled with Gyutaro's poison, so that becomes a big problem. But with Tengen, Zenitsu, and Inosuke jumping in to help, they finish the fight much easier in this timeline. After the battle, Nezuko heals Rengoku, Tanjiro, Inosuke, Zenitsu, and Tengen. And this time, Tengen doesn't lose an arm, since there was another Hashira there. Tengen also unlocks his Demon Slayer mark during this fight. Next comes the Swordsmith Village arc. Tanjiro still needs a new sword, since his current one is chipped from training with sun breathing. Everything in this arc happens pretty much the same, because Rengoku doesn't have a reason to go. His sword is still in perfect condition. Then we move on to the Hashira training arc. Rengoku is a major part of this one, making sure everyone's forms and breathing techniques are correct. Fun fact, Rengoku actually trained Mitsuri in the past. She originally tried to learn flame breathing, but couldn't get the hang of it, which led her to create love breathing. So Rengoku would definitely be involved in this arc, helping the other Hashira refine their techniques. Now, we get to when the master, Kagaya Ubuyashiki, dies at Muzan's hands, and everyone gets trapped in the Infinity Castle. In this version, Tanjiro and Rengoku team up to fight Upper Moon 3 Akaza, while Giyu joins the Upper Moon to fight with Shinobu, Kanao, and Inosuke. The Upper Moon 1 battle stays the same as the original timeline, with Tengen protecting the Ubuyashiki family alongside Rengoku's father. So, most things happen similarly to the original timeline, but now Rengoku is much stronger thanks to his Demon Slayer mark. He holds out long enough for Tanjiro to learn the selfless state and kill Akaza for good. Akaza remembers his human life and his wife, then chooses to end himself. In the Upper Moon 2 fight, Shinobu doesn't have to sacrifice herself this time. She said it takes 3 Hashira level fighters to defeat Doma, and now they have exactly that. Kanao and Inosuke together are basically 1 Hashira level. Shinobu is 1, and Giyu, being the 3rd strongest Hashira, is the 3rd. Together, with Shinobu's poison weakening Doma, Giyu's defensive water breathing, and Kanao's precise eyesight, they manage to kill Doma without losing anyone. The Upper Moon 1 battle still goes mostly the same, so Muichiro and Genya still die. That's the sad part, but at least Shinobu survives in this timeline. After the Infinity Castle collapses, Zenitsu beats Kaigaku with his new 7th form, and Mitsuri and Obanai fight alongside Yushiro, the good demon, against the Biwa woman. Yushiro takes control of the castle, but Muzan notices, kills the Biwa woman, and forces Yushiro to eject everyone out of the Infinity Castle, setting the stage for the final battle, the Sunrise Countdown arc. Well, to be real with you guys, I think Rengoku would die here because he's such a protective person. He would throw himself in front of attacks to save the other Hashira, but for this timeline, we're going to say Rengoku survives. So I'm gonna say most of the Hashira survive, except for Mitsuri, Obanai, and Gyomei. Mitsuri dies just like in the original timeline. Obanai dies on the front lines with Tanjiro, and the stone Hashira, Gyomei, also dies in this version. Everyone else helps defeat Muzan, just like in the original timeline, but this time with Rengoku's help. Shinobu survives and ends up with Giyu. They get happily married. Sanemi survives. Rengoku survives. So this version actually ends with a happy ending. What if Yoriichi was in Tanjiro's era, the current era in Demon Slayer? You guys wanted this from my post, so check out my posts to pick what videos I do. Now let's get right into it. We already covered What If Kokushibo, Michikatsu. Yoriichi's was in Tanjiro's era, but this time we're covering just Yoriichi. That means the Hashira and Tanjiro are overall weaker as a group. But since Yoriichi is insanely overpowered anyway, it changes everything. So here's how we're going to do this. Yoriichi already accomplished everything in his own era. Kokushibo still became a demon. That part doesn't change. Yoriichi still met Muzan, so we'll skip all that. We're starting right after Yoriichi leaves the Kamado family's house back in his timeline. A portal suddenly opens, and Yoriichi gets dropped into the current Demon Slayer era. He appears right when Tomioka, Tanjiro, and Nezuko are meeting for the first time. Nezuko has just turned into a demon, and Tanjiro is desperately defending her against Giyu. Yoriichi stands back and watches everything unfold. Later, as Tanjiro and Nezuko walk to Urokodaki to learn water breathing, Yoriichi approaches. He looks around and realizes this is the same place he had been centuries ago. But now it's snowing, and the Kamado family still lives here. He notices Tanjiro's Hanafuda earrings, the same ones he gave to Tanjiro's ancestors. With his sharp mind, Yoriichi quickly pieces it together. He has jumped forward in time, into the Tanjiro Kamado era. Hashira. Yoriichi quickly asks Tanjiro if Muzan is still alive in the future. He tells Tanjiro everything, that he's from the past and all that. Tanjiro doesn't really believe him, but they still go on. Tanjiro even says, I don't even know who Muzan is, because if you guys remember from the story, Urokodaki, the former water Hashira, is the one who first tells Tanjiro about Muzan. Tanjiro hasn't even gotten to that point yet, so Tanjiro, Yoriichi, and Nezuko all show up at Urokodaki's shack. By now, Yoriichi already understands that Nezuko doesn't eat humans, so he accepts her. Urokodaki sits down and asks, who is this man? Because in Gyu's letter, Gyu only said Nezuko and Tanjiro were coming. He never mentioned Yoriichi, so Urokodaki doesn't know who this strange man is. Yoriichi notices Urokodaki's outfit, the kimono with the wave pattern, and immediately recognizes it. He knows that means Urokodaki uses water breathing. Yoriichi tells him straight up that he's from the past, but no one believes him. They just think he's crazy. But inside, Yoriichi is deeply saddened that no one has defeated Muzan yet. After all these years, Muzan is still alive, and demons are still terrorizing the world. So instead of just sitting by, Yoriichi watches as Urokodaki begins to train Tanjiro. He carefully observes how much water breathing has changed over the many years that passed. Remember, Yoriichi taught all the original Hashira in his generation the breathing techniques, so he knows them better than anyone. I think Yoriichi would eventually take over the training from Urokodaki, because honestly, he understands even water breathing better than Urokodaki does, since Yoriichi helped create it. On top of that, Yoriichi teaches Tanjiro sun breathing, because Tanjiro's sword turned black, just like Yoriichi's did. Yoriichi is very surprised that someone could actually use sun breathing, because everyone who tried in his era failed, even his own brother, Michikatsu, who became Kokushibo. This shocks Yoriichi, but if you remember, he once said there were other swordsmen who died with black blades, and that a black blade is linked to sun breathing. That's one of the biggest hidden plot points in Demon Slayer. The only reason Tanjiro can handle it is because his family practiced the Hinokami Kagura for generations, shaping their bodies to withstand it. So this time, Tanjiro learns way more about sun breathing, directly from the original master himself, Yoriichi. He's taught the full depth of Hinokami Kagura, not just scraps of it. Meanwhile, Urokodaki still places his hypnotic suggestion on Nezuko to ensure she won't harm humans. Then, Tanjiro, trained under Yoriichi, goes to final selection. He kills every single demon with ease, including the hand demon, who he takes down effortlessly. After that, Tanjiro kills all the demons he did in Season 1 just fine, until we get up to Rui's Mountain. Rui's Mountain is probably going to be super different, because Yoriichi actually takes this mission totally seriously, unlike the others. Tanjiro is stronger, but he doesn't have that much real experience, since Yoriichi usually kills most of the demons before Tanjiro even gets the chance. So once Yoriichi goes up the mountain with Tanjiro and Inosuke, he sees demon slayers being overwhelmed by the thread demons. He immediately slices through all the threads, rushes the demon controlling them, and kills it instantly. After that, he kills the father demon, and then wipes out Rui's entire family. Finally, Rui himself gets cornered by Yoriichi, and it's not even a fight. Yoriichi uses sun breathing with the demon slayer mark and slices Rui's neck super clean before Tanjiro or anyone else can even reach him. This whole arc turns into Yoriichi being way too overpowered for Lower Moon 5 Rui. Afterward, Gyu and Shinobu arrive, only to see that every demon has already been killed. The only thing left for Yoriichi to do is help save Zenitsu from the spider demon, which Shinobu then heals with her antidote. From there, Yoriichi, Tanjiro, and Nezuko are brought to the Hashira meeting. This time though, Yoriichi is traveling with them, and the Hashira are furious that someone like him would be protecting a demon. Sanemi especially tries to take Nezuko from Tanjiro, saying she's dangerous and will eventually try to drink human blood. Yoriichi steps in, and Sanemi challenges him, but Yoriichi easily pins Sanemi to the ground without effort until the master arrives and stops the fight. Now we get to the Mugen Train arc. Like I said in my What If Kokushibo Was in Tanjiro's Timeline video, Yoriichi really wanted to meet the Flame Hashira. In his original timeline, after his wife died, the very first Hashira he met was the Flame Hashira. So here, Yoriichi is curious to see what the new Flame Hashira, Rengoku, is like. Because of that, Yoriichi joins Rengoku on the Mugen Train. So after that, Tanjiro, Inosuke, Zenitsu, Yoriichi, and Rengoku all go on the Mugen Train arc. This time, the reason they're going is because Yoriichi wants to talk to Rengoku. But anyway, let's just skip straight to the fighting. We get Lower Moon 1, Enmu. Yoriichi and Rengoku stay behind to protect the train, while Inosuke, Zenitsu, Nezuko, and Tanjiro head to kill Enmu. After the train derails, Upper Moon 3, Akaza shows up. But this time, Yoriichi, Tanjiro, and Rengoku are all there. Tanjiro is way stronger now, since he understands how to use sun breathing and the Demon Slayer mark. And honestly, Yoriichi doesn't even need help. Yoriichi alone could solo Akaza easily. He activates his selfless state, and with one swift strike, he slices Akaza down. Akaza's memories come flooding back, and instead of dragging Rengoku into death, Akaza basically lets go and accepts the end. So in this timeline, Yoriichi kills Upper Moon 3 instantly, with Rengoku barely needing to lift a finger. Afterward, the group heads back to the Demon Slayer cores. Yoriichi is quickly recognized as one of the strongest warriors ever, promoted to the first ever Sun Hashira. At this point, he's even stronger than Gyomei, the strongest Hashira in the original timeline. Now, the Swordsmith Village arc still happens, but not much changes. Tanjiro still doesn't have his new sword yet, and Yoriichi doesn't interfere too heavily. Tanjiro is just a little stronger than usual, but the Entertainment District arc does change. This time, when Tanjiro faces Daki, he slices through her faster. Gyutaro comes out right away, and Nezuko doesn't need to risk her life to save him. Tengen arrives quickly, and with Tanjiro already pushing sun breathing to new levels, they defeat Gyutaro without Tanjiro losing an arm. In this fight, Tanjiro unlocks his Demon Slayer mark, and afterward, Nezuko removes the poison from everyone, so no one dies. From here, Yoriichi begins teaching Tanjiro even more. He shows him how to use the selfless state, and explains how to master the Demon Slayer mark. By the time the Hashira training arc comes, it goes completely differently. Instead of Gyomei leading the final training, it's Yoriichi himself. Yoriichi focuses on unlocking marks and refining breathing styles. Since he created the original techniques, the entire core becomes much stronger than in the original timeline. Now we get to the Infinity Castle battle. This time, Yoriichi goes straight to Upper Moon 1, Kokushibo. Instead of Muichiro stumbling on him first, Yoriichi already knows his brother is there and calls him out directly. What happens is basically a 1 versus 1 between the two. And since we know from the manga that even when Yoriichi was old, he nearly killed Kokushibo. In this version where Yoriichi is in his prime, he simply cuts him down instantly. It's sad, but also inevitable. Meanwhile, the Upper Moon 2 fight against Doma goes differently as well. Instead of Shinobu having to sacrifice herself, she fights alongside Kanao, Inosuke, and this time Gyomei too. Remember, Shinobu said it takes at least 3 Hashira level fighters to kill Doma. Here, that requirement is fulfilled. With Shinobu, Gyomei, Kanao, and Inosuke, they managed to defeat Doma without Shinobu's death. The Akaza fight is also different. Rengoku unlocks his Demon Slayer mark, while Tanjiro uses the selfless state. Together, they bring Akaza down way faster. Zenitsu still fights Kaigaku, and that plays out the same. Obanai and Mitsuri handle the Biwa woman with Tamayo's help. Finally, Muzan realizes Yoriichi is alive. Realistically, if Muzan saw Yoriichi, he would have fled immediately. But for the sake of the what if, we'll say Muzan stayed, because his Infinity Castle control was compromised, and he got cornered by all the Hashira. After killing the Biwa woman, Muzan has no escape left. Now it's Yoriichi, Muzan, and all the Hashira in the final showdown. But with Yoriichi in his prime, the fight isn't even close. Muzan, slowed down by the poison Tamayo injected, can't keep up. Yoriichi slices him apart and ends the battle that haunted him for centuries. That's the main outcome of this what if. Yoriichi arrives in Tanjiro's era, and everything changes. The Hashira survive, the Demon Slayer core is stronger than ever, and Muzan falls much earlier. What if Tanjiro and Nezuko became demons? So let's get right into the video. Instead of Tanjiro going out to sell coal, he plans to do it tomorrow, so he never leaves the house. Muzan comes in, kills his whole family, and tries to inject blood into them. It doesn't work on most of them, and Muzan doesn't know. In the original timeline, Muzan didn't even realize Nezuko was turning into a demon. But this time, Tanjiro reacts to the blood way faster than Nezuko. Muzan waits for him to start changing, and then Nezuko also begins turning into a demon. So now, both of them are becoming demons. Muzan asks about the blue spider lily, because that's the whole reason he came there in the first place. Tanjiro doesn't know, and Muzan looks through his memories. Still nothing. But when he checks Nezuko's memories, he sees a glimpse of it, because her mother once showed it to her when she was little. From Tanjiro's memories, Muzan also sees the Hinokami Kagura, or sun breathing, and right away, he realizes this family can actually use sun breathing. Quick fun fact, Tanjiro's family is not descended from Yoriichi Yoriichi. Yoriichi was just best friends with their ancestor. The Kamado family just practiced sun breathing for so long that their bodies naturally adjusted to it over generations. That's why they could use it. Back to the story. Muzan takes Tanjiro and Nezuko to the Infinity Castle, injects them with even more blood, and sends them on rampages. They start eating humans non-stop and keep getting stronger and stronger. After a couple of years of them getting way stronger, Tanjiro and Nezuko go into a blood battle with Daki and Gyutaro. And honestly, they just go non-stop winning. Their blood demon arts are too special. Unlike Gyutaro and Daki, who are basically one demon with Gyutaro living inside Daki, Tanjiro and Nezuko are different. They're their own type of demons, but Muzan still counts them as one upper moon. Nezuko's blood demon art is the big difference here. Instead of hurting demons, her flames actually boost them, and that helps Tanjiro's power skyrocket. Meanwhile, Tanjiro's blood demon art is tied to his sun breathing. Muzan gives him a sword to test him, erases most of his memories since Tanjiro is way too nice to be a killer, and leaves only the memory of the Hinokami Kagura. When Tanjiro performs sun breathing now, flames actually burst out of the techniques. It's kind of like how Upper Moon 1, Kokushibo, can create crescent moon blades with his blood demon art. But for Tanjiro, it's pure fire, and he can fully control it. Together, with Nezuko boosting him and Tanjiro's fiery sun breathing, they defeat Upper Moon 6, Gyutaro and Daki, in their blood battle, and after that, they absorb them both, becoming even stronger. Right after Tanjiro and Nezuko become the new Upper Moon 6, they go up against a Hashira, and let's say that Hashira is Tengen Uzui. Now, this fight is way different, because it doesn't matter that Tengen is immune to poison. Tanjiro and Nezuko aren't like Gyutaro and Daki. Their power is pure strength, and they work as a perfect team. Tengen can't hold them off. Without any backup, he ends up dying in the process. So in this timeline, Demon Tanjiro and Nezuko kill Tengen Uzui, marking a huge turning point for the Hashira. It's basically as important as Rengoku's death in the original story. And speaking of that, Rengoku is already gone in this version, because he had to protect the Mugen train by himself, and even managed to kill Akaza after, but still lost his life. So now the Hashira are dropping like flies. After that, Tanjiro and Nezuko move on to a blood battle with Upper Moon 4, Hantengu. But in this fight, the four emotions don't stand a chance. Tanjiro slices through them one by one with his sun breathing techniques, while Nezuko boosts him with her flames. Together, they burn through the clones and take down the main body with ease. Tanjiro finishes it off by decapitating Hantengu with his Nichirin sword. Right after they kill Hantengu, Tanjiro and Nezuko absorb him, which makes them even stronger. Their power keeps rising, and with that boost of ego, they set their sights higher. They want to climb to Upper Moon 3, which means they'd have to take Akaza's spot. Akaza agrees to fight them, and he completely dominates. Tanjiro and Nezuko just aren't far enough along as demons yet. They've only had a couple years to get used to their blood demon arts, and their skills are still rough. On top of that, Tanjiro's sun breathing isn't fully polished. Back when he practiced it at home, he never truly mastered it, so in this fight, they get completely overwhelmed. Before Akaza can finish them off and absorb them, Tanjiro has a surge of memories, his family, trying to pull him back toward the light. He remembers his father's words, the lesson about the selfless state, a way to fight with unlimited power and flawless technique. That pushes him forward. With those memories, Tanjiro gets a sudden boost, his strength spikes, his technique sharpens, and together with Nezuko, they turn the fight around and kill Akaza. Keep their memories a secret from Muzan. Yeah, I know it's kind of a stretch, because Muzan can technically look through their memories, but realistically, Muzan wouldn't even care to check too deeply. He'd just assume Tanjiro barely pulled it off at the last moment. So now Tanjiro and Nezuko rise up to the rank of Upper Moon 3. Not long after, Muzan sends them on another mission. Their target this time is a Hashira. The lead they follow takes them straight to Gyomei, the stone Hashira, the strongest of them all. Now, with Tanjiro and Nezuko becoming Upper Moon 3, things shift a lot. Gyomei could never really beat Akaza on his own. Akaza was just too much for him. But now, with Tanjiro and Nezuko in Akaza's place, the fight is even crazier. Gyomei actually puts up a much bigger fight against them because of his unique weapons. With his chain and axe, he can swing both sides at once, and if he connects just right, he could potentially decapitate both of them in a single strike. So, the battle is intense. During the fight, Tanjiro keeps getting flashbacks, memories of his parents, of Nezuko as a human. All of it starts rushing back. And then, another Hashira shows up. Let's say it's Muichiro, the Mist Hashira, because he was sent on the same mission as Gyomei. Together, they push Tanjiro and Nezuko to their limits. But here's the twist. While on the brink of death, with Gyomei and Muichiro pressing them, Tanjiro and Nezuko's memories break through Muzan's control. Their humanity starts coming back, even though their bodies are still demons. Just when it looks like the Hashira are about to finish them off, the sun rises. The Hashira back off, thinking Tanjiro and Nezuko are about to be burned alive, but instead, they become immune to sunlight. The Hashira are too battered and broken to keep fighting, and they can only watch as Tanjiro and Nezuko escape. Now, instead of going back to the Infinity Castle, Tanjiro and Nezuko completely abandon Muzan. Muzan, of course, realizes what happened, and now he's furious because they've broken free from his control and hold the ultimate secret, demons who can conquer the sun. I know this timeline's a bit of a stretch, but it's the only way it really works out. So, now Tanjiro and Nezuko meet Tamayo, the good demon in Demon Slayer. And you know how the master, the Ubuyashiki family, already knows about her, so they stay with her for the time being, trying to evade Muzan the best they can. When they finally meet the master, here's the problem. The Hashira would want to kill Tanjiro and Nezuko on the spot. Remember, they killed Tengen and badly injured both Muichiro and Gyomei. So of course, the Hashira wouldn't trust them at all. But the master steps in and tells them no. Tanjiro and Nezuko are valid allies now. Their memories were erased, they weren't in control, and now they're truly on the Demon Slayer Corps' side. From here, they start helping prepare for the Infinity Castle battle. And by this point, the Upper Moons are looking a lot different. Upper Moon 6 is now Kaigaku, Zenitsu's rival. The Biwa woman has replaced Hantengu as Upper Moon 4, and there's no real Upper Moon 3 anymore. So when the Infinity Castle arc begins, Muzan tries to capture Tanjiro and Nezuko because he wants to figure out their secret to conquering the sun. All the Hashira, along with Tanjiro and Nezuko, are thrown into the castle after the Ubuyashiki family head dies. Matchups in this timeline: Tanjiro fights Upper Moon, one Kokushibo alongside Gyomei, Muichiro, Sanemi, and Genya. Over the fight, Gyomei and Muichiro gain respect for Tanjiro, seeing him battle right at their side and pushing Kokushibo back with sun breathing. Nezuko fights Doma alongside Shinobu, Kanao, and Inosuke. Shinobu still doesn't like that Nezuko's a demon, but with Nezuko's help boosting the group, they actually have a better shot, and Shinobu might even survive in this timeline. Upper Moon 5. Gyoko is left to Giyu, and with his Demon Slayer mark, he solos him just like Muichiro did in the original timeline. Upper Moon 6 Kaigaku is defeated by Zenitsu as always, completing his big moment. Honestly, the only casualty I could still see here is Shinobu, because her whole main plan with the Wisteria poison against Doma is still risky. Then comes the final battle, the Sunrise Countdown arc. Tanjiro uses sun breathing, the selfless state, and his demon regeneration together. With Nezuko boosting him even further with her blood powers, he can strike Muzan endlessly. With all the Hashira still alive and backing them, Muzan gets overwhelmed way faster in this timeline. And here's the biggest change. Tanjiro never becomes the Demon King. He was already free from Muzan's control, so when they inject him with the human serum, he and Nezuko both return to humans. They survive, but it's bittersweet because they'll always have to live with the fact that during their time as demons, they killed Tengen Uzui. After the battle, Muichiro survives thanks to Tanjiro's sun breathing backing him up, but with the Demon Slayer mark curse, he'll only live until 25. That gives him around 11 more years to live out a good life. Gyomei dies after that night because he already had the mark and was past 25. Just like Kokushibo said, he wouldn't last. Shinobu still dies from her plan against Doma. Mitsuri and Obanai both survive, and in this version, they actually get to complete their love story because Tanjiro was there to help them. Everyone else, Sanemi, Giyu, Zenitsu, Inosuke, Kanao, Nezuko, and Tanjiro, survives. So yeah, in this timeline, most of the Hashira actually live, with only Tengen, Shinobu, Gyomei, and Rengoku falling. This was a really tough what-if to cover, because Muzan is so unpredictable, and the timeline shifts in crazy ways. But I think this works out into a pretty strong ending. What if Muichiro Tokito reached his full potential? In the original series, Muichiro never truly reached his full potential because he died at just 14 years old. Even so, he put up an incredible fight, unlocking the transparent world and turning his blade red. But even then, he was nowhere close to what he could have been. Remember, Muichiro comes from the bloodline of Kokushibo, who was the brother of Yoriichi Tsugikuni, the strongest demon slayer to ever live. That means Muichiro's potential runs insanely deep. Some even say that if he had lived longer, more trained, he might have been able to stand on Yoriichi's level. And keep in mind, Muichiro became a Hashira in just 2 months of joining the Corps. That's how crazy his talent was. So, in this what if, we're going to scale how strong Muichiro would be in his prime, and how he even gets there. To do that, we have to adjust his backstory a little. Instead of being born in the original timeline, let's shift his birth 5 years or 10 years earlier. That way, by the time the big battles begin, he's older, more experienced, and closer to his true potential. His backstory still hits the same tragic beats. His mother dies from illness. His father goes out to gather herbs to save her, but he falls off a cliff and never returns. After that, Muichiro and his brother rather live alone until a demon attacks. His brother sacrifices himself to protect him. In a blind rage, Muichiro fights the demon all night, managing to kill it by sunrise, but collapses on the brink of death. Here's where it changes. The Ubuyashiki family finds him much earlier than in the original, and the reason they'd find him isn't a stretch. They were probably keeping close tabs on the Tokito family, since this bloodline was one of the most trusted and gifted among swordsmen in Japan. From here, Muichiro is taken in by the core and begins training way earlier, which sets him up to truly reach his full potential later on. So, in the original timeline, Muichiro Tokito became a Hashira at just 14 years old after only 2 months of training. But in this version, he has an extra 5 or 6 years to grow before the main events of the story, meaning by the time Tanjiro enters, Muichiro is already in his prime at around 20 years old. Now, before we jump into how this affects the story, let's scale his prime power level. First off, I don't think Muichiro would ever change his breathing style. Mist breathing is something he created himself, and it perfectly suits his personality and fighting style. On top of that, he even uses his oversized clothing to make his movements harder to read, which makes his mist techniques even deadlier. Quick little fact here, mist breathing isn't just a branch of wind breathing, it's its own unique style. So where does Prime Muichiro scale? Let's compare him to Gyomei Himejima, the stone Hashira, who's considered the strongest in the cores. Gyomei became a Hashira in 2 months as well, the same as Muichiro, but in the original timeline, we already saw him maxed out, with years of training, incredible physical strength, and insane experience. But here's the key difference. All that hard work and strength can't always beat raw talent, and Muichiro's raw talent is off the charts. In his prime, I think he'd have better speed, sharper swordsmanship, and superior technique compared to Gyomei. Gyomei might still have more raw strength, but overall, I'd put Prime Muichiro at least equal to Gyomei, or even stronger. So in this timeline, Muichiro becomes one of the strongest Hashira of his entire generation, hitting his full potential. Now let's plug this into the actual story. Tanjiro's family still dies. He goes through Season 1 and Season 2 the same way. But by the time we reach Season 3, the Swordsmith Village arc, Muichiro is no longer a prodigy child. He's a full-grown Hashira in his prime, standing at the top with the strongest of them all. Now Tanjiro heads to the Swordsmith Village for a brand new sword, and at first everything plays out the same as the original timeline. Muichiro comes into Tanjiro's room to ask if he's seen the missing swordsmith, and of course they don't know. But then Muichiro senses Upper Moon 4, Hantengu, right away. He slices off his head, splitting him into 4 different emotions. This time though, Muichiro is way faster and way more experienced. With all his extra years of growth, he doesn't get blasted away. He keeps up with the 4 emotions while Tanjiro, Nezuko, and Genya go after the main body. Muichiro can handle the clones even when they merge into a single powerful form. It's here that he activates his Demon Slayer mark, boosting his strength, speed, and awareness to new levels. In his prime, Muichiro completely outmatches Upper Moon 4, holding him off until Tanjiro, Nezuko, and Genya cut down the true body. Meanwhile, Mitsuri Kanroji, the love Hashira, makes her return to the village. She's still defending the chief, cutting through all of Gyoko's fish demons, and saving the swordsmiths. But in this timeline, she's the one who directly fights Upper Moon 5, Gyoko, right after Muichiro stays locked in battle with Hantengu. This time, it plays out much better for her. Mitsuri arrives in time to save the young swordsmith and his assistant from Gyoko's traps, and unlike Michiro in the original timeline, Mitsuri doesn't get caught in the water prison. She's far more cautious, and with her long whip-like sword, she can fight from a distance. On top of that, her blade isn't dull like Muichiro's was, so she doesn't get slowed down. Mitsuri fights at her peak, awakens her Demon Slayer mark, and eventually defeats Gyoko herself. At the end of the fight, she throws Tanjiro his brand new sword, and he uses it to kill Hantengu's main body once and for all. From there, Nezuko becomes immune to sunlight, which sets Muzan's plan into motion. Knowing she's the key to his immortality, Muzan finally moves directly against the Demon Slayer core. Tanjiro and the others return to base, and this leads straight into the Hashira training arc. Everything goes basically the same as the original story, but now we see more of Prime Muichiro, showing the others how to push their bodies further, sharpen their techniques, and reach the limits of their marks. The training still ends the same way, but now the Hashira are even more prepared for what's coming. Now let's move into the Infinity Castle arc. We'll cover the side battles first before getting into the big one. Zenitsu versus Kaigaku plays out the same. Zenitsu uses his brand new 7th form and defeats Kaigaku. The fight against Nakimi, the Biwa woman, goes to Yushiro, Obanai, and Mitsuri. With their teamwork and Yushiro hacking into her control, they eventually take her down. Tanjiro and Giyu versus Upper Moon 3, Akaza still happens here, and after an intense fight, they manage to defeat him. For Upper Moon 2, Doma, the battle is Shinobu, Kanao, and Inosuke. In this timeline, Shinobu still sacrifices herself, filling her body with wisteria poison. With Kanao and Inosuke pushing back at the right moment, Doma is finally killed, poisoned from the inside out. Now we get to the real fight. Kokushibo, Upper Moon 1. This time, Muichiro Tokito arrives first, but unlike the original, he's not a 14-year-old prodigy. He's in his prime, a full-grown Hashira at his peak strength, and that's where things really start to change. This time, Muichiro isn't shocked at all when he faces Kokushibo. He calms himself immediately and goes straight into the fight. Unlike in the original original timeline, he doesn't get his hand sliced off right at the start. Instead, he holds his ground and fights strong. Kokushibo recognizes him as part of his bloodline and says many of the same things as in the original story. But this time, he actually praises Muichiro for how powerful he's become, calling him one of the strongest demon slayers he's ever fought. He even acknowledges that Muichiro did an incredible job creating his own breathing style and pushing it to this level. Still, Kokushibo is way too strong for any demon slayer outside of Yoriichi. But in this version, Muichiro holds his own without suffering life-threatening injuries. He keeps Kokushibo occupied until Gyomei, Sanemi, and Genya arrive to back him up. Now, in the original timeline, Muichiro was heavily injured and could only help a little bit, but here, he's in his prime. A Hashira on Gyomei's level, maybe even stronger. Having two fighters of that caliber changes everything. Together, they push Kokushibo to the brink far more quickly, eventually cutting off his head. When Kokushibo regenerates, he finally admits his mistakes. Realizing the truth about his brother, Yoriichi, and seeing how far his descendants have come, he accepts defeat and chooses not to regenerate again. And that's how they win. From there, we move into the Sunrise Countdown arc. Muzan realizes that Nakime, the Biwa woman, has been compromised, so he kills her. Yushiro takes control of the Infinity Castle, and instead of being trapped, the Hashira and Demon Slayers are brought safely outside to face Muzan on the surface. In this version, the only ones who died inside the castle were Shinobu. Muichiro and Genya both survive. Now we've got another Gyomei level fighter on the battlefield, with all the Hashira battling Muzan together. They fight him incredibly well until Muzan unleashes that massive blast. Normally, most of the Hashira either die or lose a limb from it, so in this timeline, let's say Muichiro loses his left arm, but he survives and keeps fighting. From there, Muichiro joins Tanjiro and Obanai on the front lines, pushing with everything they've got until sunrise. Muichiro supports Tanjiro as he unlocks the transparent world, activates his Demon Slayer mark. Together, they help bring Muzan down once and for all. In this version, Muichiro survives the final battle, but remember, the curse of the Demon Slayer mark still lingers, so while he lives through the fight, he would only have until age 25. That gives him about 5 more years of peace, time to live happily, and maybe even continue his family's bloodline so it doesn't die out. And that's how this timeline wraps up. I hope you guys really like this what if. Let me know down in the comments. What if Akaza started eating women? In this video, we're going to go over the main story and look at how things would change, including what upper moon rank Akaza might reach if he actually ate women. So, let's get right into it. I don't want to start this one the same way we usually do, by just going from the beginning. So, of course, Tanjiro knows water breathing. He passes the final selection, and he fights Rui during the Mount Netagumo arc and all of that. But this story isn't really about Tanjiro, it's about Akaza. Even without fully remembering his fiancée, Akaza still refused to eat women. So for this what if, I have to change that. If you've watched my What If Tanjiro Was a Demon, you'll remember I said Muzan would erase all of Tanjiro's memories because he was just too kind. The same thing happens here with Akaza. Muzan erases even more of Akaza's memories, twisting him into someone who actually eats women, and by doing that, he becomes way stronger. Now, this is the part everyone wants to see. Akaza versus Doma. Normally, Doma is way stronger than Akaza because he eats women, and in Demon Slayer, women are considered the best type of meat for demons. It's basically like the Wagyu beef of demon food. That's why Doma is usually faster, stronger, and more powerful than Akaza. But here's the thing. Doma himself admitted that Akaza was an upper moon before he was.
Look, he's just angsty, that's all. Probably because I became a demon after him.
Since Doma hadn't been a demon as long, Akaza is already in the upper ranks, and when Doma finally rises up and challenges him to a blood battle, things play out differently, because this time, Akaza eats women too, making him way stronger than before. Doma doesn't stand a chance. Akaza tears through Doma's ice Buddhas and completely overwhelms him. Not only is Akaza stronger from eating women, but he's also been a demon for much longer, giving him the edge to completely destroy Doma. And here's something I've always wondered. If anyone has theories about this, drop them in the comments. Why didn't Muzan just do that to Akaza in the first place? Akaza was one of Muzan's favorite demons. He relied on him the most when it came to hunting down enemies or carrying out his orders. Also, quick fact for you guys. A lot of people think Akaza purposely went to the Mugen Train arc, but that's not true. He never actually meant to be there. What really happened was that Akaza was traveling through the woods looking for the blue spider lily. The train had already derailed and crashed, and that's when he stumbled across Rengoku. So if the train had stayed on course and reached its destination, Akaza would have never been there at all. So going back to the what if, this is why it's so strange Muzan never wiped Akaza's memories in the original story. If he had, Akaza could have been far stronger than Doma, but instead, Muzan kept Doma around, even though he disliked him, just because Doma was a ridiculously strong demon. So at this point, Akaza is Upper Moon 2, and Doma is Upper Moon 3. Muzan wouldn't kill Doma. He's still insanely powerful, even if he isn't one of Muzan's favorites. Now we get to the fight everyone would want to see. Akaza being arrogant enough to go up against Kokushibo. Personally, I don't think Akaza could beat Kokushibo. Kokushibo is just on another level, but I also don't think Kokushibo would kill him, because even in the original timeline, he didn't. Akaza still had potential to grow stronger, and that's why Kokushibo let him live. Still, in this version, with Akaza eating women and being much stronger, he might actually stand a chance. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. If Akaza ate women, who wins, Kokushibo or Akaza? Now, moving forward in the timeline, the next major time we see Akaza is during the Mugen Train arc. So let's get into that. So, in the original timeline, Akaza shows up on the Mugen Train. Like I already explained, he really just stumbled onto it by accident. A lot of people think Akaza was going all out against Rengoku, but that's not true. Rengoku was incredible. He held his own against an Upper Moon Demon almost until sunrise. Rengoku is one of my favorite characters, and yeah, he's insanely strong. But the truth is, Akaza was toying with him. The only time Akaza actually got serious was when Rengoku grabbed onto him and held him in place until the sun was about to rise. That's when Akaza tore off Rengoku's arms and escaped into the woods. Now, in this what-if scenario, things play out differently. Akaza is stronger because he eats women. Instead of stalling and dragging the fight out, when Rengoku has him pinned near sunrise, Akaza just takes him seriously right away. He quickly kills Rengoku on the spot and escapes before the sun comes up. And with that, let's move on to the next time we see Akaza. The next time we see Akaza is in the Infinity Castle arc, when he goes up against Tanjiro and Giyu. This fight would be way harder than in the original, because now Akaza is insanely strong. He's fought plenty of Water Hashira over the years, so he already knows most of Giyu's techniques. The only move he hasn't seen is Giyu's 11th form, Dead Calm, since Giyu created that himself. In this timeline, Tanjiro and Giyu would probably need backup. Without it, Giyu might actually die. Akaza is just too strong. After toying with him for a while, he'd eventually land a killing blow. The only way I could see Giyu surviving is if another Hashira joined in, maybe Obanai or Mitsuri, since in the original timeline, they were freed up after Nakime, the Biwa-playing demon who controls the Infinity Castle, was defeated. But if Giyu goes into that fight without another Hashira at his side, he's definitely dying here. Akaza would eventually punch straight through his heart. Tanjiro might still clutch it out by using Transparent World to hide his presence and land a finishing blow, but even then, it's questionable. Both Tanjiro and Giyu could easily die in this version, so that's mainly how Akaza gets defeated, and honestly, that's the biggest change that would reshape the whole timeline. Most things would still play out the same, but the major difference is Akaza defeating Doma, and in the end, just like in the original, Akaza is finally reunited with his fiancée. Before I wrap this up, I've got one question for you guys. Why don't you like my Kaiju number 8 videos? I put a lot of work into them, and while it's not the same as Demon Slayer, it's also a shorter, action-packed story with similar energy. So if you haven't already, check out my Kaiju number 8 videos and let me know if you want me to make more content on it. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this Demon Slayer What If. What if Tanjiro's dad became a Demon Slayer? I created multiple timelines for this, and this is the best one I could find. So let's get right into it. Tanjiro's dad's real name is Tanjiro Kamado. In the series, we learn he had already passed away before episode 1, so we only see him in flashbacks. It's stated in the Entertainment District arc that Tanjiro himself wasn't considered particularly special, but his father was the last truly exceptional one in the family. Tanjiro had a small mark on his forehead, similar to Yorichi's full Demon Slayer mark, which gave him special abilities. That mark allowed him to access the transparent world, use sun breathing, and push past his limits with incredible skill. Before we dive into this what if, let's first break down what the Demon Slayer mark actually is. Since Tanjiro was born with the mark, he already had access to the transparent world, along with enhanced stamina, strength, and overall abilities. But the thing about the Demon Slayer mark is that it shortens your lifespan, pushing your body far beyond its limits. But since he was born with it, that rule doesn't necessarily apply. After all, Yoriichi was born with the mark and lived well past 25. So in this timeline, the sickness that killed Tanjiro is gone, meaning he survives past episode 1. Instead of Tanjiro going alone to sell coal, his dad comes with him. After selling all the coal, an old man stops them on their way back and warns them about demons being out at night. Tanjiro tells his dad they should stay the night, so they do. But when they return home the next morning, they find their entire family dead, killed by a demon. Let's clear something up. In the original series, Tanjiro died from an illness at age 25. Some people might think that was because of the Demon Slayer mark, but it wasn't. It was just a random illness. He was born with the Demon Slayer mark, and it was active, so his death had nothing to do with the mark itself. Now let's go back to the story. Everything plays out like normal. Nezuko becomes a demon, and Tanjiro and his dad try to get her some help. Giyu shows up, and this is where things change. Tanjiro is strong, but his dad is even stronger, having truly mastered sun breathing. Remember, he once took down a bear using just a rusty axe. Because of that, he gives Giyu a much harder fight. They're almost on the same level. The only drawback is that Tanjiro doesn't have a proper proper weapon, which holds him back. Eventually, Giyu lets Tanjiro, his dad, and Nezuko go to train with the former water Hashira, Urokodaki, and so they head there next. Once they meet up with Urokodaki, the former water Hashira, Tanjiro talks with him. The only thing Urokodaki can really teach him are some basic sword movements, since Tanjiro already knows sun breathing, the selfless state, and the transparent world, making him nearly Hashira level, if not higher. After that, he officially becomes a demon slayer. Tanjiro trains under his dad, learning sun breathing and how to master the selfless state. He gets close to unlocking the transparent world with his father's help, but he still needs to awaken the demon slayer mark. After a couple of months of training, they head to the final selection, where they take down almost all the demons there. The hand demon is no problem for either of them, since they're both incredibly strong now. Nezuko stays back with Urokodaki, the former water Hashira. After returning to Urokodaki's place, they take Nezuko and set off on their journey, slaying demons along the way. Before long, they face the drum demon, a former lower moon, and meet Zenitsu and Inosuke. After defeating the drum demon, the group heads to Mount Natagumo, ready to take on Rui and the rest of his so-called family. With Inosuke, Tanjiro, and Tanjiro charging up the mountain while Zenitsu stays behind, the group eventually encounters the spider demon parents. Together, they take down both the mother demon and the massive father demon with ease. Now we get to the part where Nezuko never leaves her box, and Tanjiro and his dad go to face Rui. For them, it's hardly a challenge. Tanjiro alone could defeat Rui without much trouble. Afterward, we reach the Hashira meeting, where the big question comes up: why are they traveling with a demon? This time, the wind Hashira, Sanemi, never lays a finger on Nezuko because Tanjiro is there to stop him. The two nearly start fighting until the master arrives and orders them to stand down. From that point on, the demon slayers are forced to accept Nezuko into their ranks. As for Tanjiro, his incredible skill earns him the title of the sun-breathing Hashira. Because he defeated Lower Moon 5, Tanjiro was officially recognized as the sun-breathing Hashira. Tanjiro naturally became the Suguko, apprentice of his father, now serving under the newly appointed sun-breathing Hashira. The Mugen Train arc didn't have to feature Rengoku. It could have been any Hashira assigned to the mission. So, let's put the brand new Sun Hashira, Tanjiro Kamado, to the test. This time, Tanjiro, Nezuko, Inosuke, and Zenitsu join him, essentially replacing Rengoku with Tanjiro's dad in this version of the story. So, they all board the Mugen Train, and the events play out much like they did with Rengoku. Everyone falls asleep under Enmu's spell, then wakes up to fight. When the train transforms, Tanjiro's dad, Zenitsu, and Nezuko work together to protect the passengers, keeping the train safe from the demon's attacks. Meanwhile, Tanjiro and Inosuke head to the front of the train to face Lower Moon 1. With Tanjiro now far more skilled in sun breathing and overall combat, they manage to defeat him with relative ease. Now we get to the fight with Upper Moon 3, Akaza. This battle is much closer than in the original series, since Tanjiro is far stronger than Rengoku. This time, Tanjiro doesn't get stabbed, so he's able to assist his dad in trying to take Akaza down. By the time the sun begins to rise, Akaza's head is sliced off by Tanjiro. Believing him to be dead, Tanjiro and his father turn their backs, only for Akaza to reattach his head and flee into the forest to escape the sunlight. When they return from the Mugen Train, there's both good news and bad news. The good news, they managed to defeat Lower Moon 1. The bad news, they failed to kill Upper Moon 3, Akaza. Tanjiro explained that Akaza regenerated his head, something he suspected might be unique to Upper Moons. But ultimately, Akaza only ran off because the sunlight was about to hit him. Now we've got the Entertainment District arc, but this time, Tanjiro's dad is out of the picture. The key difference is that Tanjiro is now much stronger, having mastered sun breathing, nearly mastered the transparent world, and fully unlocked the selfless state. Everything plays out mostly the same, except when Tanjiro first faces Daki, he actually manages to cut off her head, causing Gyutaro to appear earlier. Tengen and the others arrive quickly, and the fight against Upper Moon 6 begins. This time, Tengen doesn't lose his arm. In the heat of the battle, Tanjiro unlocks his Demon Slayer mark, and in that intense moment, Tengen unlocks his own mark as well. After the fight, Nezuko heals Tengen, and they head off. From here, events follow the original timeline. Tanjiro ends up in a coma for 3 months, and then we move into the Swordsmith Village arc. In this version, the arc plays out almost exactly the same as in the original series, except Tanjiro is much stronger, so the battles are easier for him. Overall, the Swordsmith Village arc doesn't change much in this timeline, and now, since Nezuko has gained immunity to sunlight, they return, and this time, we get a Hashira training arc. Most of the Hashira already know about the Demon Slayer mark, so training goes smoothly. The key difference is that now, we have the Sun Hashira, Tanjiro's dad, stepping in. It plays out almost exactly the same as before, but with the added intensity of training under a Sun Hashira. Meanwhile, Muzan still forms his plan to capture Nezuko. Kagaya is killed, and the Demon Slayers are all transported into the Infinity Castle, starting the Infinity Castle arc. So for the Upper Moon, one fight in this timeline will have Tanjiro Kamado, Sun Hashira, teaming up with Gyomei Himejima, Stone Hashira, Muichiro Tokito, Mist Hashira, Sanemi Shinazugawa, Wind Hashira, and Genya Shinazugawa. For the Upper Moon 2 Doma fight in this timeline, the team would be Shinobu Kocho, Insect Hashira, Kanao, Inosuke, and Tengen Uzui Sound Hashira. That squad has both speed and poison on their side, plus some serious unpredictability with Inosuke and Kanao working together. For Upper Moon 3 Akaza, it stays the same. Tanjiro Kamado and Giyu Tomioka versus Akaza. Now, we get to the fight with Upper Moon 3 Akaza. This one basically ends the same way. Tanjiro uses the selfless state to kill Akaza. Now let's get into the Upper Moon 2 fight. In the Upper Moon 2 fight with Doma, Tengen is there, so Shinobu doesn't die. Together with 2 Hashira, Kanao, and Inosuke, they overwhelm him. Eventually, they manage to get the job done, killing Doma, and this time, no one has to die in the process. Now we get to one of my favorite fights in this video, Kokushibo, Upper Moon 1 versus all the Hashira and Genya. But this time, this fight goes a lot easier now that Tanjiro's dad is in the mix, with Gyomei, Sanemi, and Muichiro helping out, and Tanjiro's dad being almost on Yorichi's level. They're able to defeat Kokushibo without too much trouble. Now, for the side battles, Zenitsu versus Kaigaku doesn't last long, ending quickly in Zenitsu's victory. Nakime faces off against Mitsuri, Obanai, and Yushiro, but before the fight can truly finish, Muzan kills Nakime himself. With her gone, everyone is teleported out of the Infinity Castle, marking the start of the Sunrise Countdown arc. Muzan gets taken down much faster this time, thanks to Tanjiro and Tanjiro both fully mastering sun breathing. With their combined power, along with the other Hashira, nobody dies in this battle. Shinobu is still alive, and even Obanai survives. All of this is because of Tanjiro present. In the end, Tanjiro doesn't turn into a demon, and Muzan is finally defeated once and for all. Mitsuri and Obanai get to live long, happy lives together, finally able to be a couple without the looming threat of demons. Shinobu also survives in this timeline, and she and Giyu eventually become a couple as well, living out their days in peace. Now, if you guys want to see what if Nezuko became a demon slayer with Tanjiro, full timeline.